Imagine a figure central to the faith of over 1 billion people, yet whose historical existence is now being questioned. Recent findings challenge centuries-old beliefs about Muhammad, the prophet of Islam, and the origins of one of the world's largest religions. What if the story isn't as it seems? Today, we'll explore the groundbreaking research that casts doubt on Muhammad's historical existence. The story of Muhammad as presented in Islamic tradition is more than just a biography. It forms the foundation of Islamic theology, law, and culture. Muslims are taught that Muhammad lived in Mecca and Medina during the 7th century, receiving revelations that became the Quran. His life is documented through sources like the Hadith and the Sejarah, which detail his actions, sayings, and the rise of Islam. But what if these sources aren't as reliable as they seem? Modern scholarship is beginning to uncover significant gaps in the historical narrative. If these findings hold, they could reshape not only how we understand Islam, but also how we view the broader history of the Middle East. Let's start with the sources. The Quran, Hadith, and biographies of Muhammad are considered foundational to Islamic history. However, these texts pose a serious issue. They appear far too late. The Quran itself lacks clear manuscript evidence from the 7th century. While fragments exist, the earliest complete Quranic manuscripts are from the 8th and 9th centuries. This raises questions. If the Quran was truly revealed during Muhammad's lifetime, why don't we have more contemporary evidence? The Hadith, which detail Muhammad's words and deeds, are even more problematic. The 6 canonical collections, such as those of Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, were compiled 200 to 300 years after Muhammad's death. And yet, we have no manuscripts of these collections from that time period. The first physical copies appear several centuries later, during the Ottoman period. The biographies, or Sejarah, face similar challenges. The most famous biography by Ibn Ishaq was written over a century after Muhammad's death, and we don't even have his original work. What we know comes from redactions by later authors like Ibn Hisham, who lived even later. If Muhammad's existence is in question, what about the cities most associated with him, Mecca and Medina? Modern archaeological and historical studies reveal a striking lack of evidence for Mecca's significance in the 7th century. Early maps and trade records make no mention of Mecca as a major hub, despite Islamic tradition claiming it was a central city of commerce and religion. Medina fares slightly better in terms of evidence, but even there, the descriptions of theological debates between Muhammad, Christians, and Jews raise doubts. Historical records suggest that the region was sparsely populated at the time, making such encounters unlikely. If these cities weren't as described, then where did the Quran and early Islamic traditions originate? Here's where it gets even more fascinating. Much of what the modern world knows about Muhammad comes not from Muslim sources, but from 19th century European scholars. Heinrich Ferdinand Wüstenfeld, a German Orientalist, compiled the first widely available version of the Sejarah. His work pieced together manuscripts written between the 11th and 16th centuries. These manuscripts were already centuries removed from Muhammad's life. This means that the story of Muhammad's life as commonly told today was constructed in large part by Western academics. If this is the case, how reliable is the narrative? Let's return to the Hadith. These texts are vital for Islamic jurisprudence, detailing how Muslims should pray, fast, and conduct their daily lives. Yet, the first manuscripts of major Hadith collections, like those attributed to Bukhari and Muslim, don't appear until the 11th century. That's 400 years after Muhammad's time. Even more concerning is the fact that these manuscripts were heavily edited and redacted over centuries. The versions we have today are the result of later political and theological influences, particularly during the Ottoman period. If the traditional accounts of Muhammad and early Islam can't be supported by contemporary evidence, then where does that leave us? Scholars are now turning to alternative explanations. Some suggest that Islam didn't originate in Mecca and Medina, but in northern regions closer to Christian and Jewish communities, where theological debates were more vibrant. Others propose that Muhammad may have been a composite figure, a blend of multiple leaders and traditions brought together under a unified narrative centuries later. This would explain the inconsistencies in Islamic sources and the delayed emergence of manuscripts. The questions raised by this research are complex and, for many, deeply personal. But they're also necessary. Understanding the past helps us make sense of the present, and in this case, it challenges us to look beyond assumptions and dig deeper into history. Now, let's compare this with Christianity. The New Testament, particularly the Gospels, is built on eyewitness accounts. Scholars agree that Paul's letters, written as early as 50 to 60, just 20 to 30 years after Jesus' death, are among the earliest Christian writings. These letters confirm key aspects of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. Archaeological discoveries further back up the Gospel accounts. For instance, the Pool of Bethesda, described in John chapter 5, verse 2, was excavated and matched the description found in the text. Similarly, inscriptions like the Pilate stone confirm the existence of Pontius Pilate, a key figure in Jesus' crucifixion. Unlike Islamic sources, which emerge centuries after Muhammad's supposed time, Christian texts have a trail of documentation and physical evidence that closely aligns with the events they describe. This comparison highlights why examining historical claims critically is so important. Let's keep asking questions and seeking the truth together. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.